like to talk to Witless about Witsit
You
about
can't.
the.
Come on, Tony.
Oh, you're starting
That's
off
not a good
nasty,
start.
Tony.
That's not a good
Tell
start.
Mr. Sit on your gravimeter and shut the fuck up.
You gotta
Okay,
slow down with that one, Tony.
I'm just saying, at some point, I'd like to talk to Witsit about the lies that he told the entire chat yesterday.
Witsit said six
I'm
and a
an
half
hour.
hours. 6.5
Yeah,
hours.
dude. You can send it to my PayPal.
You guys should
Yeah,
hop in
actually,
the hot
1,000 an
mic room.
hour.
If you guys both go in the hot mic room, you can hash it out.
Would you
And
say
it'll
you
go
do it in an
pretty
hour?
smooth.
Witsit? Hold on, guys.
Yeah, 1,000 an hour.
Oh, I see. He wants a G an hour. That's the
Yeah,
friend price.
second hour. And that's like, unless it's the relativistic hour, it's 2K.
So, okay, then I'll do it without Witsit's participation. So the
Yeah, I could be your life coach. Hold on, I could be your life coach.
I'll give you a discount.
Tony, no one
Yesterday-
cares, bro. Tony, no one cares, bro.
Okay, yeah. So no one cares that
Why don't you
have
tell
been
us about the
caught in an
submarine,
explicit
Tony?
lie.
Tony, tell us
So-
about the submarine paradox, Tony.
No, why are you asking him to tell us about stuff, bro?
Well, I mean,
So the
What the hell,
so
bro? He talks super slow. Yeah,
Witsit, and
so
this is not a defense
I
against the
want.
lies you told. Witsit, you
Oh.
told everybody a lie, and if
No, I
anybody
didn't.
else had told it, you would want them held accountable. But apparently, you want to skate on the fact that you said the paper I presented yesterday was not the reference that you used in your debate against Brett
years
Meyer,
ago,
and
Tony.
it very much is. Yes, and he lied about it yesterday.
Okay,
all
well, how
right,
about
let's
this?
just hold on.
I-
Hold on a second. Hold on,
Bro.
guys. Hold on. Witsit just did an 8-hour marathon with Rusted Soul. Can we give him a friggin' break? For
No,
fuck's
I don't
sake.
even know. I don't know all this. I said I'll look into all that, man. Like, there's just one specific paper that says in the conclusion that gravity alone, doesn't explain it. So if that isn't said in the paper that you're talking about, it's not the paper that I'm talking about. And for you to conflate them, I'm sure I've shown many of them. At one point, I tried to go through the internet and find every single paper ever about it. So, like, whatever, dude. Whatever. I don't care if you went.
but you
I don't
said-
care. I don't care if I actually mixed them up at one point. I don't care if you went and found a video where I did show that paper. When I looked at it, I didn't recognize the paper. And think about how weird it is that when I'm not in the room, you pop in and you're like, "Hey, 3 years ago, I heard Austin say this." Ugh. It's like, bro, get over me. It's gay. I said I'll look
But
into
it's
it.
a lie, Witsit.
I didn't lie about anything.
Oh, I have a quote where
You made emphatic statements that wasn't the paper that you used, and if you weren't sure about that, you should have said so at the time. You said that you had.
Did you hear what I just said?
Yes, I did hear what you just said, and I'm responding. You don't get to just brush under the carpet the fact that you lied yesterday when you said that this wasn't a paper that you've seen before, when you said that this wasn't a paper you've used at your citation, and having read the paper, you have misinterpreted your summary there that you just presented, saying that they tried to explain it using gravity and it didn't fit. That,
yeah, you know what you don't get to do, bud? Come and hang out with us.
That is a misinterpretation. That is a misinterpretation of what that paper said. So I suspect strongly, this is the paper that you have used. You have just misinterpreted what it says.
Hold on, you
suspect?
So you're not even sure?
Yo, dude, seriously, nobody wants to talk about this shit, dude. We'd rather hear, if Witz is going to even speak, which I don't even think he was speaking, he's just hanging out, dude. So, like, relax. Like, we don't want to talk about this bullshit, bro. Nobody cares about the paper. Just remember, no matter, how about this? Just think of it like this in your head. No matter what the fuck you say, Witsit was right, you were wrong. Let's just drop it.
I found other papers that had the similar conclusions as what Witsit was saying. And you were saying, if that's a different conclusion, that's the only reason why he said that, yeah, if it's a different conclusion, it probably wasn't that paper. This was over 2 years ago.
But the paper does say that they tried to explain it using gravitational signals and weather and were unable to. But what they mean by weather is atmospheric loading. An
It actually did say that.
atmospheric loading
Well,
is
the
not.
conclusion doesn't even say that. You're changing what it actually said. The conclusion I'm talking about, this is a fact, okay? There's a paper about gravimeters, and thunderstorm activity. And in the conclusion, it says, it leaves it open-ended and says that an explanation outside of gravity alone is needed to explain the observation. That's what it says. And that's paraphrased. And dude, I don't care if you say, well, I think I know what the answer is, or here's another paper, or I don't think Austin understands everything in the paper. No one cares about any of that. No one cares. And the fact that I
Then
even
where's your
I'm not
paper with
done,
it?
dude. I'm not done, dude. The fact that I even entertained it, meaning that you're bringing something up from years ago, and you're like, it just really kind of comes across gay.
Well, I have
That's my honest
something.
opinion. Just a
I have
second, just a second,
something, and I have a link to it.
So this could be
okay, real fast,
settled.
just a
Tony,
second.
This
please
could be
listen.
settled if you would present the paper that you are relying
The paper?
on. And you
Okay,
said you
can I
would do
finish
it
what I was
last night.
Can I finish what I was
This was
saying,
a,
bro?
And you said you would do it last night, and that was a lie.
yeah, but this is
So
I
intriguing.
said I
This
I
could
said
be
I'd try to
finished
do it
without
later.
us, though. All of us don't need to be here for this, Tony. It's kind of like you hijack. I get you got a problem, whatever. It might be valid. I don't know. Don't care. But you're hijacking the whole entire room. It's not a personal phone call.
All I said was before being leapt upon by everybody was registering the point that at some point I would like to talk to Witsit.
right,
No, you called me
even that-
witless.
And
You
I
called me
didn't, and I
witless.
didn't
You
say,
called me
and I
witless,
didn't,
indeed.
and exactly that happened. Everybody
No.
jumped on me. Everybody
Yes, you're the
interrupted me.
victim,
Everybody
Tony.
attacked me, and so it became okay. Let's talk about it now.
No,
Rather
that's not what happened.
than me making the point while Witsit was around that I wanted to talk about this at some point in the future.
Can I
So
finish
had you
what I'm
not
saying, bro?
attacked me,
Like,
had you
this is
not
what I'm
interrupted me,
talking about,
and had
bro.
you not
You interrupted
dogpiled me,
me, dude.
then it would have been. This wouldn't have happened.
Okay, can I talk now? This is what always happens. It's every time I start talking, you interrupt me, then someone else, even if they're trying to help me, even if they're trying to say another point, they start talking, then you jump in and start talking. So what ends up happening? I never get to just say what I'm saying. So then I'm just like, you know what? I'm not sitting here listening to this pretentious douchebag pretend that he can talk down to me while I'm never allowed to talk. I don't have to. And what world do you live in that you wake up in the morning and think, Witsit works for me and owes me something and must sit here and listen to me belligerently talk down to him like some pretentious douchebag with letters in front of my name? I don't have to do that. So if you want to engage with me, try to have some respect. You don't call me witless. You don't call me outside of my name. You don't falsely accuse me of lying. Nor do you expect me to run around and run errands for you the second that you bring something up for 3 years ago. The fact that I even said, okay, I'll try to find the paper and I'll get back to you is me doing you a favor. I don't have to do whatever you come up with. Imagine the freaking
You don't
arrogance
have to
required.
defend yourself against the accusation of
Imagine the
lying. Quite
arrogance
true.
required to think that you can go through my streams, which there are hundreds of, and be like, hey, I don't like what Witsit said right here. And you can pop up at any point and demand I run around and look for something that I read 3 years ago and I answer you right now about what it says. Actually, I don't have to do any of that. Okay, so I said, yeah, bro, I'll try
You
and
are under
find it.
no
I'll try and
obligation.
find it. And if you wanted to expedite the process and you were in good faith, what you would have done was, wait, okay, let me find the conclusion that says this. Let me actually read this out to the room because it absolutely does say that the gravity didn't work to explain it, that something else is needed to explain it. Okay, but you try
Is
to
that what you
omit
want me to
that.
do now?
You try to omit that. No, I don't want to do anything with you right now. So look, rain check, dude. If you want to sit, rain check. Rain check.
Okay, but you are going to find this paper and you are going to address this topic. That's all I wanted to say. And if people hadn't interrupted me and hadn't attacked me, we could have saved ourselves 15 minutes.
That's not all you wanted to say. You called me a name, you called me a liar. You said I want to point out Witsit is lying, and You didn't say. I just hope that Witsit gets the paper sometime.
I have to admit, I have to apologize. Witless was a slip of the tongue. I did not intend to use the term witless. It's something I hear a lot, and I mistakenly use that instead of your name.
And apologize for it. Apologize for it.
I just did. I am apologizing for it.
All right, cool.
I am apologizing.
Everybody loves each other. Let's talk about something like time.
Okay.
Like the previous conversation.
Dude, let me just wrap this up, dude. Tony, I don't want to mislead anyone. If there's additional information or something else I need to understand more about it to be able to still man the other side, that's what I always try to do. I don't mind you bringing that to my attention. Okay, I am very busy. I came in here because I'm running errands. I just wanted to chill and listen. Okay, I'm not like a doll that has strings attached, and any person that can create a Discord account gets to press a button. I dance for them. That's not how it works. Okay, so I
Okay.
will look into it later. I will try to find out where the confusion is. Did I get something wrong? If I got something wrong, I will happily correct the record.
Okay. But you can understand my concern that that this just gets kicked down the road and neglected. But anyway, as has been pointed out multiple times, I derailed the conversation. I just wanted to make a point for Witsit's that I wanted to discuss this later. I didn't want to divert the conversation away from what was a very interesting conversation about the nature of time and relativity. Please return to that.
You both are getting fined.
Fair enough.
It would be chilling. I'm gonna have to create an alt account, use a voice changer or something.
I still say there's more legs than eyes.
Both get suspended for one game each.
Well, just to address sort of the general topic as it was before, like and Batty made the point about intelligibility. Yes, there's a lot about relativity that is difficult to make any sense of, and the same is true of quantum mechanics. And neither of these, and there is a lot of criticism that these theories are over elaborate, and that they don't make any sense from a lot of people. And it's entirely true. No sane person would propose these hypotheses unless the observational evidence demanded them. And that's the sort of central truism of modern science is, these ideas are absolutely mind-bending. They do not agree at all with how we interpret, with how we interact with the world on an everyday basis. They don't agree with our logical, our common sense. They don't agree with our what we regard as standard logic. They're bizarre in multiple ways. I concede that, but the data demands that this is how the world works. And when we test these hypotheses, we get, experimentally and observationally, we get agreement with the theory in general. There are, of course, outliers, but
it's just
we
the math.
get here.
It's just the math checks out, but there's no observation to confirm the math.
Yeah, so
there is observation. Gravitational time dilation is measured in the laboratory. Relativistic time dilation is observed in particle accelerators. Relativistic change in mass is observed in particle accelerators. So to claim that there's no observational evidence validating relativity
of the paradox, Tony.
Of the paradox, right? But the paradox is sort of a conceptual thing.
Yeah, so even if, like, which I obviously don't agree with the observation and empirical side, but like, even if I were to grant that, right, when you say that the evidence demands something, that's a colloquial way of saying, using logic, if we were to interpret this evidence, this would be necessary. So you're presupposing logic there in order to even say that the evidence demands something. But if
absolutely.
I know, but here's the problem: if what logic demands is that logic be destroyed, then why should we even accept it in the first place? I mean, that's it's your prerogative if you want to. I mean, that's kind of like a self-refuting kind of epistemology. But you can have it if you want. I don't care. It's up to you.
In what sense has logic been destroyed by relativity?
And I wanted to say something like before we move on, but I can wait.
I apologize that I forgot that I had told this person to fuck off and attack their English. I apologize that in the heat of the moment I got so angry and that my words got away from me and that I wasn't paying attention to what I said. But that is in the heat of an argument. That is very different from somebody repeatedly discussing a particular scientific topic and declining to be clear and honest about the discussion.
But dude, you said all kinds of contradictory things about it. I'm not saying that you're right. Dude, like the fact that I said, okay, I don't remember all the specifics, I'll look into it, isn't me saying I don't believe you are right. Because at one point you said something about a tidal component of it causing the perturbations and that they absolutely covered that. They would have had to have addressed that in the paper. And then you're turning around and saying that their conclusion just says that it can't be explained, but what you're claiming explains it supposedly was covered in the paper, which would only strengthen my point if they actually addressed and acknowledged the possibility of the perturbation being based on some tidal component, but then their conclusion is saying that we can't fully explain it. Do you not
You want to
understand the
discuss
point
this
I'm
now or
making?
not?
Do you not understand the point I just made?
I do understand the point you just made. What I want to know is, do you want to discuss this now
Right,
or
and then
not?
let me make another point. Whenever I say, yo, look, this is just for people, because we actually don't just like turn our brains off and be like, oh man, what did the peer review paper say? Like you do. So whenever we're just discussing, okay, what a coincidence when we're finding out like the intrinsic property of all matter is electrostatic. I can manipulate this variable, I can manipulate the electric field, etc., and see an effect on what people attribute to gravity. Yet the proponents of the bending and warping of concepts can't do any of that, but somehow believe that they have the stronger position. Then we turn and look at this gravimeter, we see some object falling. We start to measure it with highly precise measurement. We see that when there's thunderstorm activity, when there's different effects within the electrical field, that object actually falls at different rates. So then we can take that and say, okay, look, well, this kind of makes sense in what we understand. That if you turn around and say, because I'm actually invoking all these papers just to point out that the phenomena is real. If you turn around and say, well, I have a concept that there are perturbations within gravity waves and and you make up whatever mental gymnastic explanation you want to come up with, reifying your concept, that's non sequitur to my point anyway. Right?
Okay,
It's not even relevant.
So I'm going to respond because apparently Witsit wants to do this now. There is a massive amount of science that has been and funding that has been dedicated to the use of magnetolevitation in laboratories. So the claim that you guys are the ones who discovered that you can use electrostatic forces to raise things is nonsense. Mainstream science has been aware of this. Mainstream science has been aware of this for many decades, and we do not, and we can easily prove using multiple data sets, for instance, the fact that neutrons accelerate under the influence of gravity, to disprove the claim that gravity has any electrostatic component whatsoever. So the very notion that you're rising can be readily instantly disproved with observational data. So and yes, nobody has ever claimed that you can't raise and lower things using electrostatic forces, but the electrostatic fields that you have to use to do it are so incredibly massive that, for instance, that they are vastly too strong compared to Earth's magnetic field. Earth's magnetic field would be ripping things apart.
Why are you conflating magnetic fields and electricity?
Well, strong compared to Earth are so incredibly massive that, for instance, that they are vastly too strong compared to Earth's magnetic field. Earth's magnetic field would be ripping things apart.
Why are you conflating magnetic fields and static electricity?
Nonetheless, the fact that neutrons fall under gravity debunks what you just claimed. No, I can't. You got to make multiple points at the same time. I get to address all of them.
You're not addressing my point is I use it all to make one single big point, which is just that what's happening here is you're pretending that I invoked these papers claiming, look, mainstream science that believes in gravity admits that gravity is debunked and it's actually electrostatic or something. And this was never my claim, right? All I did was invoke, hey, look, there's actually a phenomenon that happens that perplexes the mainstream that they're trying to figure out, right? And that the actual object falls at different rates based on thunderstorm activity. So obviously some type of variance in the surrounding ambient electric field, etc. So I'm just pointing out that evidence. That's all that I'm doing. Okay. And then listen to me, Tony. Listen to my point and then engage with this point instead of all the specific little different things that we can discuss. I'm trying to ask you to address this bigger point, which is the fact that you think that you can explain it with gravity is not relevant to exactly what I'm saying. It's actually just a different thing. The fact that you think that you can explain it doesn't mean anything.
So you have failed to validate your claim that this perplexes anyone. I actually worked on a superconducting gravimeter. The same style of gravimeters that were used in the paper that I cited. And it really does seem to be the same paper. I can see how you came to the conclusions that this is what that paper said. But you reject my characterization. Okay. But the influence of thunderstorms on gravimeters is not perplexing to people who use these gravimeters. So the claim that it is, and maybe I'm unaware of something in the literature, that's entirely possible. But you need to produce that paper in order for me to accept that that's true. And when previously challenged on this topic, you referenced the paper that I showed yesterday. The paper that you now deny is.
He mentioned it, and he even said that it could be the paper, but you mischaracterized it. This is stupid. This is from 2 years ago.
Well, you can read the paper yourself, Taylor.
I hope somebody does not bring up something I said 2 years ago and ask me about it, expecting me to get it right, dude. Seriously, would you?
Yes, but he repeated his claim yesterday. He repeated the claim.
You never brought the paper to him when he repeated it, bro. You just said, hey, what about this time ago? He's like literally preoccupied walking in traffic. You're asking about some paper 2 years ago.
What actually happened was someone messaged me saying that you were talking about this, bro, and then accusing me of intentionally misleading people and omitting what it actually says, which is not what happened, because when I bring these papers up on my stream, so we're talking Skull and Globers almost 3 years ago, actually. When I bring these papers up, I share the screen and go through it, bro. I read it and I show the conclusion and read it. It's not like I'm trying to lie to anyone. This is the only reason I even came in to address it, because when people are claiming I'm lying, just like I had to have that stupid low vibration conversation with Rusted Soul yesterday. Because I'm not going to let people lie about me, claiming that I'm lying to people, intentionally omitting things to mislead them, being deceptive, stealing money. All this is bullshit. So that's the only reason I'm even engaging in this conversation. I am interested in the conversation as a whole, right? But it's like, dude, what happens is, if you seem to think that if within your paradigm, anyone can theorize any possible answer, that therefore it becomes automatically true and excludes any alternative possibility. That is absolutely not how science works in any way, right? In any way. That's how you view it.
But you have yet to establish your baseline. You claim that there is this citation that says this, and you have failed to substantiate that claim. So you are operating under the assumption. Yes, you are operating under the assumption that your claim is correct, and this is one of the things that is at issue.
Wait, the paper doesn't say that? Clarify. You're saying the paper doesn't say that the object fell at different rates when there was thunderstorm activity?
It does say that, but it also says that was due to mass redistributions in the atmosphere.
The paper I read in the conclusion literally says it leaves it open-ended.
You have yet to demonstrate that because you haven't produced the paper. All you're saying is over and over again, this is what the paper said, and then when asked to produce the paper, you just go, nah.
No, that's not what I said. I said, yeah, exactly. Because, dude, I just packed up all my stuff and moved all my stuff that was on my PC on an external hard drive. I didn't even bring it on accident, so it's in storage. I have to go through and find papers. I've invoked and cited probably over 1,000 papers easily in the last few years. So if someone just stumbles over on Discord and says, "Hey, here's this one paper that I think you talked about, and I think you got it wrong. Cite it right now, bring it up, or you're a liar." It's the most retarded thing I can even imagine someone doing, dude.
But you just repeating the claim that this is what some mystical paper that you can't produce says is not a valid argument. You have to concede that until you have produced the paper, there is every possibility that you have misremembered the content of the paper.
Wait, I already said that if I got something wrong, I will happily correct the record. What you expect me to do is just take your word for it and then now say it. And the major problem here is that's distinctly different from lying to someone anyway. Lying is deceiving with intention. If someone gets something wrong or is ignorant of something or misunderstands something, that's the opposite of lying, okay? This is the actual issue, is that you're accusing me of lying and deceiving people and intentionally omitting things. That is the lie. That is slander, bro. That isn't what occurred at all. Or I wouldn't be in here even addressing you saying I'll correct the record. Okay. So I could pull a move like a bunch of your buddies over there on the globe side, like the Matoons in the world, and just blatantly lie all the time, but then just stay in my little bubble and echo chamber of my YouTube channel, and then block anyone that exposes that I'm lying, and then just double down on my lie. But I come right in here in the trenches of anyone claiming they have proof and receipts of something I've done, and I address them directly.
Your argument is entirely circular. I'm not lying because I'm here addressing it. That's not
what I said.
There are plenty of liars who do barefacedly defend themselves. You made an argument along those lines that you are.
Tony, I said if I got something wrong, that's not synonymous.
No, sir, you don't get to interrupt me one sentence. You said if I were lying, I wouldn't even be in the server. That's what you said. If I were lying, I wouldn't even be in the server. You said those were the words to those effects.
No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Okay, this is so stupid, dude. Okay,
okay, well, you just interrupted me. You just interrupted me one sentence into what I was saying.
Because you're just immediately misrepresenting it again, so it just gets to the point where this is literally a waste of my time.
I think that you misrepresent stuff, and apparently I'm not justified when I interrupt you. It's okay for you to do it to me.
Well, no, you think I have to? Do you understand how time-consuming this is? If I had to talk to you for an hour back and forth, that when you're making accusations about me personally, and I corrected it and says I didn't even say it.
Frankly, you chose this conversation. I said I would wait.
No, you brought this up, bro.
Yes, and then I said I would wait until you found the paper, which is the only way this argument can be resolved, is by you producing the paper that you referenced.
You claim he misrepresented it. Let's look at it.
Drop the one that you think. So you understand? You think that you found the one I was covering. I am not surprised at all if you have found a paper that I have at one point shared or invoked. Yes. And also, one thing that I definitely can see happening is me just dropping the wrong one, right? Like on a stream or whatever, being like, yo, I saw this paper and they did this and it showed this, and then going and grabbing it and dropping it, and it maybe not being the right one. Maybe there's another one. That's one possibility. There's many possibilities. And there's also the possibility that I just was wrong about something. I don't even care if that's the case. I'll just say it.
And the possibility that he's wrong.
Correct. So this is expect me to just jump to the I'm wrong, he's right part because he's saying it over and over. No, drop the paper. And then what I want to know from you, dude, is you're saying in order for it to be any possibility, right, that you're on the right path here, that conclusion is going to have to say something like what I'm saying. It's going to have to say something about how it is that gravity didn't sufficiently explain it. That requires additional explanation. There's going to something to that effect.
Yes, and it does.
What's the name of the paper, bro?
Allow me to read from the
Give me the name of it so we can read along.
Okay, let me drop it in chat for the 10th time so that you can read it with me.
Okay, perfect.
Just let me find the relevant folder.
Yo, pause. Did you guys know that there's like apparently, have you guys ever heard of being able to plug up something in your outlet? So like plug up something into an electrical outlet, connect it to a Wi-Fi router or modem, and then go to another room, plug the other thing into the outlet, and then run an Ethernet directly to it, and then establish a wired internet connection through the electrical wiring of your house.
I use that. Yeah.
Yep.
It works.
Yeah.
Okay.
It works.
Yeah, that works. Yeah,
well,
cool. Not as fast.
It usually
though.
works. It's a bit. It's a bit circuit dependent.
Tony, can you also send me the video which he quoted this paper in, please?
It's not as fast. It's not as fast as connected directly to your router. You know,
They do have gigabit ones though.
Okay, because I have right now, this is a gigabit one, and it says 2,000 megabits per second, but this is supposed to be up to a gigabit. And then my Wi-Fi wireless adapter is pretty trash in my PC, so I'm going to try this if anyone's actually tried it and knows it works.
Is it TP-Link?
This is Netgear, man.
Brand. Oh, Netgear. Yeah.
No good?
Okay.
No,
That's all I see at Best Buy.
In the chat at 49 past the hour, I have shared the paper itself. In the chat, and just below it, you will see the email in which Witsit said to Brett Myers after their debate, clarifying that this is an example of the sort of reference that he was using, and it is exactly the paper that I have listed. So we can just give me a right.
Yeah.
On the first page of the paper. Blah blah blah.
Let me back up. So let me mute.
Again, you've referenced something that you may have mistakenly dropped the wrong paper. That's fine. I accept that possibility too. However, based on your summary, I can. So there's a problem with the paper in that it was written by Russians.
Can I quote something from the paper?
And pardon?
Can I quote something from the paper?
Yeah, can we pause everything about the paper for a second? Okay, I just read this email. It very clearly says this is after the whole fiasco of me asking him for links, and then both of them just blatantly slandering me and lying about all of it. And then I said, here's a couple more examples. So I explained how it all got mixed up and I couldn't find everything. And I even asked ChatGPT. And I said, here are a couple more examples, which seems to pretty clearly imply that this isn't the primary paper that I invoked, right? Because at this point... But
the thing is, so I'd like to go through the paper because there are some quotes
me too.
that do accord with what Witsit said. And I dropped it in the chat, but there's a quote here. Long-term measurements show that seismic and weather factors do not affect the value of gravity acceleration, but only increase the root mean square error of gravity measurements. Okay. So if I were Witsit and I were looking at that sentence, which I think is a particularly bad sentence, it says weather does not have an effect on the value of gravity. To me, that's what that sentence says, right? So if I were Witsit and I were reading this paper, I would see this sentence and I would think, well, the authors are saying that weather effects can't influence gravity, but we're reporting a gravity perturbation. That's what I would interpret this as saying.
Okay, I've been requesting to read this paper, and you're just going all in. Seriously?
Okay, but sorry,
Are
Taylor,
you gonna stop me from doing that?
Witsit, sorry, Taylor. As much as
I asked for the link for the paper. I'm the one that asked for it first. Can I read a quote from it or not?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. The revealed effect should be considered non-gravitational changes. The magnitude of the effect is at most 3 micgal. It has been reliably identified against the graph of tidal observations.
All right, yes, that's from the abstract, right? And then on page 257, we see the following quote. The observed effect is probably due to the large mass of the rain clouds against the relatively low thunderstorm cloudiness of the atmospheric thunderstorm front. So while they use the term non-gravitational early on, they directly attribute the effect to the mass redistributions in the atmosphere in the body of the paper. This is why I was mentioning that the paper was written by Russians and was translated, in my opinion, poorly into English. And it
was probably due to some mass redistribution.
Yes.
Well, that's very scientific.
That's their estimation.
It's not a great paper,
effect.
So it's not a great paper.
They didn't measure that.
And the English is terrible.
Okay, so they're hypothesizing at the end. That's not what they studied paper, bro.
My point is still the same here, which is right. Like if you account for the typical variables of gravity, and what happens is in the gravimeter, the object starts falling at different rates when there's a change in the electrical field. What the gravity components do, because they're limited to proportionate mass for the effect entirely, they just assume it must be because of some mass distribution, right? So then they're like, oh, it must be the clouds, it must be whatever. I reject their entire premise, so I can still invoke this.
No, you can't. If you
now we look at the other papers. That's the next step. That's the next step. Look at the other papers because they might have a better conclusion. So let's move on.
Okay. To what other paper, Taylor?
Well, okay, yeah, I'm no, that's not even the original email. I mean, because clearly that's like after I've sent the main ones I'm invoking. This is after all that, and this is me saying like here are a couple more. You know what I'm saying? But like, I think there's a list. There's like a list of them somewhere, and I think that even I was shown the list yesterday. I just haven't been able to go through all of them and find out. Yeah.
So looking at this paper, I can understand how Witsit so Witsit summarized apparently a different paper, but I can see that reading this paper, he can come to the conclusions that he did. I can see how reading this paper, Witsit could come to the conclusions that he did.
Did they measure thunderstorm cloud weight? That's an assumption. All they said was that this effect is not due to gravity alone. That's the only thing they studied. That's what they came to the conclusion. If they want to hypothesize rain clouds, you have to do further studies.
Wait, to be fair and good.
No, hang on.
Wait, let me address you here. Like Tony's saying, he could see why I would maybe genuinely have misinterpreted it. That's why he's making the assumption that that's the paper that I invoked. Right, I understand what you're saying, Tony. And I'm just saying, like, okay, this doesn't look like the one I remember. So it's possible that what I was doing at this point is just trying to compile any and all papers about the subject at all and send them to him. And then I was asking ChatGPT if they could find me because from my experience, whenever some type of study or quote unquote experiment doesn't go against or goes against like the mainstream understanding, typically, or this has happened to me many times, the paper will all but disappear, dude. It'll be very hard to find it. So this is why I reached out to that guy and said, yo, can you help me find out if these are legit? And then they just totally slandered me.
Yeah, I feel like they didn't necessarily handle that in the best. They certainly didn't handle it in a constructive way, and they and sort of they eroded any goodwill between the sides. I entirely agree, and I'm trying to say, look, I can see how you reading this, you would draw certain salient points because coming from your perspective, they would leap out. But to respond to Taylor's point, in order for Witsit's main thesis to be in order for Witsit to invoke this paper as observational support of his position, they would have to actively exclude the possibility that any sort of mass redistribution could have caused this perturbation, and they don't. They don't do that, and so this is not exclusive support for Witsit's suggestion, and which I think Witsit interpreted it as exclusive support for his position. And when you read the paper in detail, it doesn't seem to be, or at least my interpretation of the paper is not that it is exclusive evidence supporting Witsit's position.
It doesn't really seem like me to just read an abstract and then run with it. Like
No, because the sentence that you quote is actually in the body of the paper. The sentence that Taylor quoted, which says about non-gravitational effects, that's in the abstract. But the paper where they say weather and seismic effects don't have any effect on gravity, that's in the body of the paper. So it is clear to me, and since that, if my hypothesis is correct, and it's quite possible, I'm going to admit that I'm wrong and that there's a different paper that you've read that says this more explicitly. I'd like to see it. Is all I can say. But looking at that sentence, that weather and seismic influences don't have an influence on gravity, I just think that that's false. As somebody who studies gravity effects, that statement is false. I don't understand how that and so it's clear to me, since that is the salient point, like you said multiple times, like they considered other possible contributions and they excluded them. They excluded weather and they excluded seismic effects. And so it seems to me like you have read the body of the paper. I'm not claiming you didn't. It's just that you've come in and there are certain sections of the paper that have leapt out and slapped you between the eyes and you've gone, wow, okay, this really does.
Yeah, we want the other papers too. If you got this email, you should have got the other email with the other papers. Can you cite those, please?
No, I don't. I only have access.
Ask
to this
the boy that sent you.
They only made public They only selectively made public some of the emails or screenshots of some of the emails because they're deliberately deceptive to slander me.
Okay,
That's
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can only work with the information I have. Witsit, if you could share me another email with another list, I can track down those publications for you.
Who sent you this email, Tony?
I'm prepared.
I'll have to set time aside to look through all this.
Who sent you this? Surely they have the other ones.
It's from McToon.
It's from MC Toon. MC Toon shared this with me.
Can you ask MC Toon for the other email, the other sources?
Okay.
This one doesn't disagree with his conclusion, by the way. It's just not as specific as you like. That's fine.
It doesn't say that we have excluded the contribution of mass redistribution as causing this.
Oh, it's a hypothesis. At the end of papers, they'll hypothesize, oh, well, it could be this, it could be that. The main premise is gravity alone is not going to cause these effects. So
even more importantly, Taylor, even more importantly is like the whole premise of that paper, I was just looking through it, like breezing through it. It's like this is something that wasn't previously known to be or wasn't previously observed. So it's like a new thing. It's not new now, right? This is years ago at this point. My point is like there was a period of time when people just like unexpectedly observed changes in correlation to the thunderstorm, right? Because there's a huge difference in like the clouds themselves. There's a huge difference in like clouds. Obviously, as like a proponent of gravity, one would expect there to always be like an influence of any mass, right? Like any mass, any ambient mass or whatever, like in the proximity of it, because that's just how gravity fundamentally works. But if there is a additional component where it's like it's not just the mass of the clouds, like the actual electrical aspects of the environment, like the thunderstorm activity itself is affecting it. Okay, well, that's, this is a totally different thing. And of course, I would just expect someone that believes in gravity to say something like, oh, well, that could be an additional effect. Right?
Okay, but as someone who has worked on superconducting gravimeters, the fact that weather systems...
Can you prove it's from the thundercloud mass, please?
Oh, for fuck's sake, Taylor!
I just don't see where he lied. I just don't see where he lied. Like you came in here saying he lied.
Allow me to explain then. Allow me to explain then. So Witsit will deny that tidal components, and has denied repeatedly that tidal components are gravitational. If he accepts the observations in this paper, as valid, then he must accept that tidal components are gravitational, because the observed perturbation is a perturbation from the tidal component. Therefore, when Witsit asserts that tides are not gravitational, that is a misrepresentation of the content of this paper, and he is asserting that the contents of this paper are accurate.
But it's shown that these effects are not due to gravity alone, so we need to see the other papers. This is like a fundamental first step in doing this research.
Yes, and I've been asking for the other papers for 2 days now.
Good. We should find them before we say he's a liar. Thank you. That's a serious claim, dude. To say someone's lying.
I just explained.
You should have every piece of evidence to say that, and I don't think this is enough.
Well, then you're wrong.
Tony's claim is that he lied. You haven't produced the video where he lied. So, to say that he has to prove something or show something, can you show us where he lied still? Do you have that? You've been saying that for 3 days now. People have been asking you for 3 days now.
Okay.
Don't be so melodramatic.
We can just ask Witsit now. Witsit, are tides gravitational?
I don't believe in your gravity model, bro. You know that.
Okay, then you don't accept any of the contents of this paper, do you?
I don't accept their belief of gravity. That isn't the point. I gotta check out.
This is
so
ridiculous.
You can't use this observation to validate your position, can you?
Can you post a video where he lied?
Wait, so he can't use a hostile witness?
No. So in order to support his argument, he has to rely on the observations in the paper being accurate.
So in order,
Do you remember my quote from the paper earlier saying that
he can't logically say that the observations in the paper are inaccurate and that they are accurate at the same time. The law of excluded middle applies.
Tony, in order
Either
to prove that he lied, he needs to answer your questions right now.
or the observations are inaccurate. One of the two hold.
Tony, in order for you to prove that he lied, can you just prove that he lied? In order for you to prove that he lied, does he need to answer your questions, or can you just prove that he lied, like you keep claiming? Can you just prove it with bloviating for an hour? All you
lying.
Tony, do you know what bloviation is?
Yes, I do know what bloviation is, and I also know what dickheadedness is, and I also know what logical inconsistency is. You're the person who insists on the law of excluded middle.
Okay, if you can call me a dickhead,
I'm still in the middle of talking, so I don't understand why you're talking.
I'm talking because you take extended pauses in the middle of speaking as if you were done talking. You're a troll. You take extended pauses as if you were done talking. That's why people do that.
But I was not done talking, and so now that we've cleared that up, I'm going to continue talking. It is either the case that the observations in this paper are accurate or they are not. He cannot simultaneously maintain that they accurately record a perturbation and then say that they are simply inaccurate as a whole. That is logically
the gravity's not causing the effect.
That statement can't be false. This is unrelated to whether or not the perturbation is due to gravity or not, Taylor. This is a completely different issue. He is trying to use these observations to support his claim. He cannot logically turn around and say, but the observations themselves are just completely unreliable and do not accord with reality.
The idea that it was
that is the argument that he is trying to make.
All right, so we're 2 minutes into someone asking Tony, hey, Tony, you said that Austin lied. Can you show us where he lied? And all he does is repeat what he's been saying for 3 days. So that's what he was asked. Tony, if you can show where he lied, then we can look at it and see if he lied. And that isn't you asking questions, that isn't you bloviating, condescendingly, obfuscating from the question. You say he lied. Please show where he lied. Otherwise, it's just your word.
And you refusing to accept it is just you being obstructive.
Okay, if you say you did, then you are a liar by your own standard.
His two statements cannot logically be true.
If you say you did, you're a liar by your own standard. You did not show where he lied.
Dude, I didn't lie about anything, bro. Tony, do you understand the accusation is that, like, this is kind of how McToon tries to spin it too. And let's just be logical for a second. Hey, if McToon's going to prove that Witsit's a liar, then why does he have to deceptively cut out the email, the context, and then deceptively misrepresent what was actually said and what actually happened to prove that I'm a liar? That's just retarded. Even beyond that, the accusation is that I read through this, I found out that gravity does explain it, then decide to intentionally deceive my audience and misrepresent would think that it doesn't, so I can trick them into thinking that the earth is flat. It's the goofiest suggestion I've ever heard.
That is not my claim, sir.
That's the implication of me lying.
No, it's not the implication. Please listen to the words I say. The act of deceit here is to claim that the instruments reliably record a perturbation, but the instruments are utterly unreliable because they also record a tidal curve. So you are simultaneously...
I never said that.
So do you accept that the tidal curve recorded
no,
in
prove
the
where he lied.
real?
You don't have to press
see what you just did?
Where he lied.
Yeah, no, I don't. I want to... You have to... Either the instruments are recording tidal components or they aren't. You are saying that the instruments cannot be recording a tidal component, and yet the instruments clearly do record a signal that is in very close agreement
Gravity's not enough to account
with the theoretical model for tides. So you can't then say... So this is evidence that tides are gravitational.
Okay, so by your understanding, you're a liar and Austin's not. We got it.
You can't deny that this is evidence that tides are gravitational.
The revealed
Right, so by your own standard, you would be a liar and Austin is not, right? By your own standard, you would be a liar and Austin is not?
No.
Quote from the paper, the revealed effects should be considered non-gravitational changes. Where did he lie?
This is not the issue under consideration. The perturbation is not the issue under consideration.
See?
It's the tidal component that is. So leave aside the perturbation, Taylor. I don't know how to explain it any more clearly. We're not talking about the perturbation. We are talking about the tidal curve.
Where's the video that he said about the tidal curve? I want to see
Tony
what
said he lied. He
Okay,
cannot provide
he
evidence of Austin lying. He forfeits his claim.
He just said in this chat that the tidal component is non-gravitational.
He what?
Did he not?
Doesn't matter. You said he lied before he said that.
Okay. He has made that claim multiple times. I am not going to sit through, and he has repeated it now. So that is to claim that he says it now
you
but
have
he's
to prove
never
that
said
it is
at any point
gravitational.
in history.
Prove tidal curves are gravitational, or he's not a liar.
Yo, this is just sounding goofy to me. Like, I don't even know how you think this makes sense. Like, if I don't believe in your tidal theory, you somehow have evolved that into me saying that the quote unquote that the instruments are utterly unreliable, right? Like, obviously, I didn't say that because it's just stop. So just the devices themselves, gravimeter, right? Like we have a little BB drop in it or whatever. There are different types of them. They're spring loaded, they're interferometric, etc. There are different types. And it's just measuring the rate at which something falls with high precision.
Prove that tidal curves are gravitational.
Okay. I'm being dogpiled here. Which question do you want me to respond to first?
That he's a liar. So the link, the video, the link. Prove he's a liar.
I mean, Tony, you don't get that. That's the problem. Like, there's a distinct difference between like some type of intellectual disagreement and then the accusation that I'm lying.
Okay, Witsit, do gravimeters measure tidal components?
This is kind of a vague question. Tidal components. I don't know. I mean, if you're saying is there a relationship between like tides and then some of the detections or perturbations? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Like I don't know.
Do gravimeters measure the direct gravitational signal due to tides, or do they measure a signal that accords very closely to tidal gravitational accelerations?
I'm almost positive that if I actually looked into it, that it's going to have way more anomalies than you are letting on. This happens every single time with every topic. So I'm not. How does this mean I'm lying about something now? This is what I'm not understanding.
I have the quote where PhD Tony lied on a video too, directly, like within 1 minute. So we can just keep doing this all day.
Yeah, look, we've been doing this for 3 days. The crux of the issue is, Tony, stop interrupting. Tony, I was talking first. The crux of the issue is you said that Austin lied about a thing. Please show us Austin lying about a thing. That's not bloviating. That isn't making more claims. Just show us the evidence that he lied about a thing.
Sorry, Witsit, do you concede that you have said on multiple times?
No, he can do it. He has no evidence. He came in here saying he lied without Witsit here. So there must be some external evidence he lied.
Right, you have to have evidence before this cross-examination that you're trying to do. You have evidence that he lied. Please display the evidence. Otherwise, take back your claim.
Yeah, I will not take back the claim because it is a matter of public record.
Prove it.
Yeah, prove that. Link it right now in the chat, please.
Show the public record. If it's a matter of, just show it.
Frankly, this is an absurd standard of evidence. That's being applied.
No, it's not. You said you lied. Show the lie. It's not absurd. Show it.
While I'm talking, you apparently whine every time that I talk. I'm in the middle of talking.
You're no obfuscating and bloviating from the subject. I'm just trying to keep it on subject.
That he has said this multiple times. But the fact that he is willing to concede that he has said this multiple times over years is not evidence that he has said it over time. So his testimony about what he has said over time is not evidence. I have to go away and find the actual video. This seems spurious. He is willing to admit that this is his position and that he has publicly stated it over time.
You said the papers said he lied.
So I don't care about your attempted misdirection. This is just an attempt at to salvage some sort of defense that I can't instantly pull up a video of him
Where in
saying
the papers
this.
did he
You've
lie?
had
Multiple
hang on,
times
everybody.
over
You've had
the
3 days. It's
past
not
5
instant.
years. He has said this multiple times, and
Tony,
he will
stop
freely
yelling.
admit,
Finish your point.
he will freely admit under questioning that he has done so.
Okay, great, Tony. It's not us asking instantly. You said for 3 days that he's lied. Show us where he lied. This isn't a diversion. This goes back to the crux of the issue. Show us your evidence. It's not more claims. It's not an I need to ask you questions. Just show us. Show us where he lied. That's it. It's not diversion.
I don't have to provide that because I have eyewitness testimony.
Wow.
Okay, then why do you have the right to heckle and ask him for a paper for 2 days?
And I have first-hand eyewitness testimony from him that he has said it. So the claim that the only form of evidence that is acceptable is video recording of it happening, when we have him and me both providing eyewitness testimony, and indeed I can provide eyewitness testimony from dozens of other individuals.
Dude, can we pause this for a second? Tony, this is the issue, bro. This is the issue, right? We both know what you did, okay? You ran around, specifically when I wasn't here, claiming that I was intentionally deceiving people by lying about what the paper actually shows.
No, that is not what I said.
Wow.
What I said.
That is what you said.
I don't know how many times I have to explain this.
That is what he said, though.
You know what the word lie
it isn't
means?
what I said. You guys being unable to
We
understand.
can find you saying that, though.
Can you define lying?
No, that's not what I said, and I defy you to produce that evidence.
Bro, can you calm down?
You lied about a paper, dude.
Yeah, define lying.
Okay, to lie, it is a lie when you know something to be true and you say the opposite. You know, because you have read this paper, you know that the tidal curve is detected by gravimetric instruments, that they detect a signal that because it's in the figure, there's only 2 figures in the paper. You know, having read the paper, that the gravimeter detects the tidal curve, that the gravimetric observations are in close agreement with the tidal component. You know that to be true. And then you turn around and you say there's no evidence that tides are gravitational.
Okay, don't interrupt me. Okay, I have looked into the tidal theory, and there are many problems with it within your idea of gravity. So it has a fundamental presupposition baked in, reifying this model that actually doesn't work. So if there is some type of perturbation or signal or disturbance that's detected by the gravimeter, I do not have to accept your belief or the author's belief of what the cause of that is, or their belief of their gravity model, for me to invoke the hostile witness and point out that the observation itself, the evidence, the measurements are showing a fluctuation that correlates to electrical activity, which was why I invoked the paper, and I stand on it to this day.
Okay, but you are lying by omission when you fail to point out that in the same paper there is extremely close agreement between the gravimetric observations and the tidal model. You are leaving that out, and you are not telling your followers that that is the case when you know that it is. You can look at figure 2 and you can see the close agreement between the observational data. There is no reification here. There is close agreement between the observational data and the tidal model.
It's not
okay, so
feel
like,
that from your audience.
There's also a close correlation between the sunrise and the rooster crowing. Okay, so this is, I mean, come on, dude. Like the correlation causation thing, or this is really where we've devolved to. I'm not lying by omission either. I've already said this very clearly, right? I don't remember this is what I remember about this whole topic, okay? I was just researching random things. I ended up coming across some paper that showed that the gravimeter changes during thunderstorms. I'm like, whoa, that makes a lot of sense within kind of my working idea of what's being mislabeled as quote unquote gravity, okay? Because I think that we have all kinds of evidence we can actually verify that it's electrical in nature, and then actually understanding what electrical in nature means and what's the relationship with the background medium and different modalities, et cetera, okay?
You're getting back to the point.
Stop. So I'm like, yo, I tell people in Ether cause or whatever, I start sharing it around in here. I start showing like, yo, this works perfectly within my idea, right? What the typical globe defense was, oh, well, there could be an electrical variable that does affect it, but that doesn't mean gravity's not true also. Okay. So then I just started, people claimed I was making this up. So I showed it to them and we started looking for other papers. And then when we would double back to look for some of the papers we had seen, they were hard to find. It was a whole process. So I was looking for different papers. So right now where we're at is I don't know for sure that this is the paper that I'm referencing. I also know I was never, didn't just have one paper I was referencing. I also know that fundamentally, I disagree with what they believe gravity is going into the actual measurements. And that is independent of the fact that there is, in fact, a phenomena that the gravimeter shows a change when there is thunderstorm activity. You're saying I'm lying by omission? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. That doesn't even make any sense. You're saying there's a different part of this paper I think that you should have told people about and you didn't, so you're lying. Lying is deceiving people with intention. I'm not deceiving anyone. I'm posting the papers. I drop all my resources in my Telegram. t.me/Witsit has all the resources. No part of this is lying.
Okay, then you are simply irrational. Like, in order to
feeling
and this is possible, like as well, irrational from a certain context. In order to properly understand this, there is a so from a scientific perspective, these people are reporting a perturbation. A perturbation from what? A perturbation from the tidal curve, right? So in order to accept the result in the paper, the result in the paper is that they have measured a perturbation from the tidal curve. You can't sort of reject the tidal curve but accept the perturbation, because this is the central thesis of the paper. Now it's becoming clear to me that I'm applying a scientist's interpretation of this paper to you, and that you don't have a scientist's understanding of this paper. So,
dude, I'm almost positive.
Hang on. That means that I will retract my accusation that you are lying. My accusation now becomes that you have not.
You're scientifically illiterate and incompetent.
Hang on.
We get it.
I am now retracting the accusation that you lied, and I am replacing it with you have not properly internalized what this paper says. Because what this paper says is that there is a perturbation from the tidal curve due to the presence of an intense thunderstorm. That's what this paper says. And you don't get, and from my perspective, it is misleading. It is misleading to refer to the perturbation without referring to the tidal curve. You don't have that perspective.
Okay.
I'll take the lie part out of it. Fine. That's not how you see things.
Okay, now here's the more important part of it.
In that paper, thank you.
Here's the more important part, right? Is whenever because like I'm doing stuff right now, like I can get why it may be frustrating for you if I'm in here and I'm engaging with it, but I'm not like providing stuff. Like, okay, I'm sorry, it's just what it is. I'm very busy, bro, right now. But this is the thing. When I read that email, I remember the context of me talking to Brian Myers, where he's pretending to be a nice guy behind the scenes, pretending to agree with me on everything, pretending that I make all kinds of good points, and then snaking me and going and sending emails between me and him to Mattoon, who then lies about it. But anyway, the point is that just reading that, right, is what happened was there was a paper that originally got my attention, and like that's when I became aware of the phenomena in general. And then I started looking for additional resources for it. And I remember I had a list at one point, whatever. This is way down the list on that process where now I'm saying, oh, here's another one. So for you to hone in on that at the very end, oh, here's another one that talks about the phenomena, and then to say, oh, the original claim that Austin pointed out about a different paper initially, I'm going to now apply that to the other paper that Austin tagged on at the end, saying, oh, here's another paper about it that I just found. It's just goofy to me. Not being sure about which paper is which and all that, because it's been years. It really doesn't make any sense at all that this would be the primary paper I was discussing. It doesn't even make any logical sense.
And that's fine, but please produce that paper so that we can discuss.
And I said I would go through the list and try to find it, right? So just so you understand it's not like I'm just holding out. There's a whole list of papers. I'm now going to have to go back through them and figure out which one it was. So, like,
Okay.
you know, it is what it is.
It is what it is. But this is
your email. You're claiming, bro.
This is Taylor. You haven't made any constructive points.
You came to me personally last night and said, "Did you know Witsit lied about a paper?" You said, "Taylor, did you know Witsit lied about that paper?" You came to me about it. You made me involved. So that was right.
You should fully retract the way you just bro. Show some humility. Be like, okay, I didn't maybe handle it the right way. I shouldn't have said these things. What you should have done is brought it up either to me or to the room to relay the message to me, and then been patient until I'm able. Because it's been years. What's a couple of days? Been patient until I'm able to actually go through the stuff, and then we can have some type of actual conversation. But instead of taking personal attacks, or trying to say I'm so stupid I can't understand the papers, or trying to say I'm intentionally trying to lie to people and deceive them about what the paper says. This is all retarded. If I was going to lie to people about what a paper says, why would I then give them the paper? I'm like, hey, here's the paper for the whole audience. You can have it yourself, and then lie about what it says. How does that even make any sense?
Okay, so again, my perspective is this paper says there is a perturbation from the tidal curve. And therefore, in order for that to make any sense, you must concede the reality of the tidal curve. You clearly do not internalize scientific results in that way. But that is so I was operating under the assumption that that you were. I'm not sure how to phrase this. That you were
intentionally misleading his audience. That's the assumption you were operating under.
I was operating under the assumption that he was properly internalizing the content of the paper. If he did not properly internalize the content of the paper, then he was not being willfully misleading. He was, however, saying something that is factually incorrect. He was, however, not intending to mislead. He was simply mistaken. But I operated under the assumption Witsit presents himself as somebody whose skill at interpreting scientific literature is such that he obviously properly interprets scientific literature.
I can give you other
his claim
now
is to hide behind incompetence, that he has
not
properly internalized the content of the paper, and that therefore he is saying factually incorrect things because he has not properly understood the paper. I was going to be more diplomatic about phrasing that, but Gally has put an end to that.
Yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying you're not apologizing for saying someone lied and then not proving it. You take forever to say, I'm not going to apologize even though... Shut up. Stop interrupting. That was a long-winded way of saying, I'm not going to apologize for saying he lied, even though I have no proof that he lied. That's what you said.
Okay,
I know what you said because you spoke while I was speaking. Stop interrupting people, Tony. And be more concise, also.
No!
Yeah, he just likes to make it.
That's like your favorite
anyway,
word.
Tony, do you acknowledge that there's other effects with tidal curves, like magnetic fields?
Nope.
Having relation to tidal curves?
Nope.
Okay, here's one by the by NASA in ocean tides and magnetic fields. Are you willing to read it?
Sure.
Nope.
It makes sense.
This probably is some of the other papers he listed in other emails that you did not list. But I can give you many.
So again, that's just a lie. I didn't have access to his list. I didn't have access to his list. So how can I possibly have cherry-picked the paper? I don't have access to the list.
Well, then you should be more responsible. You should be more responsible before going around making accusations.
I should allude to information I don't have.
No, you should be more responsible.
And I should make greater allowance for the fact that you are incompetent. Great.
No, you can just reading, like, simple basic reading comprehension would have helped you out maybe, because you just read the email and clearly see I said, oh, here's another one. So then to come around being like, this is the one paper that Witsit is lying about, it's just stupid. It requires, like, I don't know how you could get to that point.
Did you really say here's another one in that email?
Yeah.
Wow, that shows you sent other ones, and you should look into that too, by the way, because you said the other day, we can pull this from the clip. The other day, you said this is the paper he cited from a video. Well, actually, this wasn't from a video. This was an email after the video, and there was other papers that were sent beforehand. And like, it's debatable whether this paper.
And we are certain, are we, that the paper sent?
So you can interrupt people, and I don't even take that long to talk. I'm just saying, you can do that, but other people can do it when you go in 5 minutes. That's just kind of hypocritical in my opinion, but it's all good.
Are we certain? Have we established that the other papers are related to thunderstorms?
No, that's your problem. This is your claim that you brought up days ago from something years ago. You should have all the sources.
I can assure you that they are. That was the entire context of my discussion with him, dude.
Okay.
And I only reached out to Brian Meyer because he was a professor. I only reached out to him. I only reached out to him because, for one, he has a similar tactic to you, right? Which is like, if he hasn't heard of something, he just says, no, it doesn't exist, and pretends that like somehow you're a little better about it. But like when I'm live with Brian, he would just say, no, nothing like that exists, as if he has some omnipotent position of knowledge and knows all papers that have ever been published or something. So anyway, then we're emailing, and someone told me that like, oh, well, professors are able to have access to different databases. Sometimes things aren't fully published or before they're fully published, or sometimes they don't get out for whatever reason, or they're holding on to them because they're going to integrate some of that stuff into subsequent work, whatever it is. So I'm like, okay. Well, conveniently, I was talking to this guy about that. He's being all buddy with me behind the scenes. So I'm like, okay, well then maybe he'll help me out here, right? So that's like the context of the conversation is he's challenging the general premise. That's specifically what he wrote a book about, what he taught about. Like that's his field, right? So it's like, okay, this is a perfect person to ask if he can help me either verify the validity of some of these papers or find them if they're gone now, right? And that's what the context was. I said, okay, well, here's some of the papers I was alluding to. Here's some things of a list I can't find or verify these right here. So when you're like, you should have just clicked on the link or whatever, that was the whole point of the email. I was like, I can't find these, bro. So can you help prove that these are legit, or help me find them? I can't find them.
I'm not interested in the ChatGPT thing. I think that you were done.
But do you get the context?
Dude, you're not even listening to his statement.
You don't get my point, though. My point is like, dude, the point is, Tony, my point is that you're now taking an email at the end of that whole thing where I'm like, I'm actually calling him out for what him and Mattoon did, right? And then below it, I'm like, oh, and here's another one. And I explained where the confusion was that I lost some stuff. And then I'm like, okay, here's another paper that you can look at. So it's like, whatever, bro. My point is like, okay, I will try to look at it, dude. But what you should definitely take away from this is to like, jump out and start making accusations and assumptions and stuff is wrong. You're not supposed to do that. So you should just take responsibility for it and not do it again.
Okay, so Witsit, there are several points here. You are making assertions from the content of your email at the end of a chain, and you are claiming that this email only discusses the influence of thunderstorms. It doesn't. The third link that you show has nothing to do with thunderstorms. So the assumption that you have drawn that the other emails must be related to thunderstorm activity and gravimeters does not hold, because this email does not only contain thunderstorm and gravimeter data. It contains data about the your electromagnetic theory or electrostatic theory of gravity more generally. Of which the thunderstorms the effect of thunderstorms on gravimeters is a subset. So you've made an argument. You've constructed an argument here that I should have logically been able to deduce this, and the evidence in front of me was not sufficient to come to that conclusion.
Well, the best you could have logically come to is that you didn't know, right? Like that you just didn't know. So you should have come and asked me.
Okay. And here's my other point. I asked you yesterday. So it had been presented to me that this was the paper that you relied on. Okay, and I took other people's word for it, and that is my error. Okay, that is something that is a mistake. And I presented it. And I also made the mistake that you internalize scientific literature in the same way that scientists of my experience do, and you seem not to, and that was my mistake too. And I asked you yesterday, and sort of I'm something of a literalist. When you say I'll get back to you this evening, right? And you're right, you've got other priorities, and I apologize, by the way, yesterday. Because you came in to confront Rusted Soul, and I sort of bearded you as soon as you piped up, and I confronted on this. And the reality is that you had a vastly more significant interaction with Rusted Soul that needed to be resolved. And I am very sorry. I want to express my sympathy for the extraordinarily psychotic behaviour that was lavished on you by that individual, and the stress that you and your family will put under as a result. That should never happen to anyone. Okay, I wanted to express my sympathy for that, and to express my apology for sort of sticking my oar in there. I had no idea that things were about to get that heavy. That was not something that I expected to happen, but my apologies in retrospect for that. Now, if you have other papers, that's fine, and I'd be happy to look at it, because it's entirely possible that there are other papers out there that I am unaware of that present anomalous data. All I can say is that I haven't encountered them, and that and I would be very interested to explore them. But it remains the case that I don't think that, when it's like the Elias effect, right? Or the Allais effect, however you pronounce that stupid name. That effect is reported as a perturbation from precession of the. So if you're referencing the Allais effect, you must accept that Foucault pendulums undergo precession. You can't deny the precession, but accept the perturbation. And this seems to happen multiple times. You accept the perturbation, but you don't accept the curve from which the perturbation is measured. If you don't accept the curve from which the perturbation is measured, you can't accept the perturbation. Like, it doesn't make logical sense to me. And I'm struggling for how to present that to you, because you seem perfectly okay with the idea of, well, I don't need to listen to this part of the data, but I can listen to that part of the data. You have to accept the data as a whole.
Okay, so like, dude, I'm not ignoring the data, meaning the measurements. I'm just ignoring the assumptions baked in. And one major issue is if we say, like, okay, there's an anomaly here with this thunderstorm activity in the gravimeter measurements, and then we're going to say, oh, it's based on like the tidal components. Well, that now would have to, for that to be a feasible explanation, that now must carry over to all other scenarios in which there would be any tidal component in proximity to the gravimeter. So if that's the actual truth, then it would have to be detected in all other scenarios, right?
You misinterpreted what I said.
But no, I'm asking you a logical question about the situation. Like, if we have a gravimeter, we're seeing some type of anomalous readings, and we're trying to figure out what it is, which is what this is about. And it correlates to thunderstorm activity. And they're like, oh, well, there's a perturbation based on the tidal component, and that could be an explanation or whatever, right? Then we would then expect.
Again, you're just not understanding what I'm saying, you're making an argument against a point I never raised. Okay, go ahead, but this is not what I said. You're not addressing what I said.
Well, how about just what? Okay, the meta here is: do you agree that any explanation proposed to explain this anomaly or the fluctuations that were detected would then have to carry over to all other situations with the same variables?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So whatever the explanation is for this situation, that means that every other time that there's a thunderstorm or there's a tidal component or whatever, that we would also have to see the same fluctuation.
Yeah, and we do. So this is a point that you raised earlier, and I was trying to address when I got interrupted. So I have, as I said, worked, albeit sort of all I did was the helium refills, and when there was a bushfire, we had to do a lot of other repairs as well. But of a superconducting gravimeter. And you can look at the gravity signals, and you can see storm fronts moving across the valley, right? You can see storm fronts. They produce a gravitational signal that's several hours long. And this was known, certainly to me and my colleagues, in the early 2000s. So I'm not exactly sure why in 2015 these people thought it was publication worthy, because it was a well-known effect. But you're exactly right, it does occur. just to clarify where I think the misunderstanding is, I'm not saying that the perturbation is caused by tides. The perturbation is obviously caused by the storms, but it is a perturbation from the tidal curve. So it's a perturbation from the tidal signal, not a perturbation caused by the tidal signal. The tidal signal is the background signal on which the perturbation is imposed.
Okay, so you can see that you have a specific framework of how gravity operates that is presupposed going into the interpretation of all of this data. If I reject that, and not just baselessly, mind you, okay, it isn't just some just overt, irresponsible denial of science, the way that it's portrayed. That isn't the case. Like, I've looked into the tidal theory, for example, it's trash. I've looked into the interpretations of gravity waves and the claimed evidence for it. I think it's trash. A lot of presuppositions, a lot of cherry picking, a lot of cooking the books, whatever. You can disagree with that, but the point is that if if I reject those assumptions, if I then look through papers to try to get down to what was actually observed, right? The fact that I don't believe all the baked in presuppositions does not equate to incompetency. Okay, I just don't believe in it.
Yeah, but you can't. So you have to accept the observations, right? You're saying that the observations are accurate, and the observations agree very closely, despite your claims of anomalies. And there is noise on those curves if you look in that, but the observations agree very closely
Observations
with
don't render an opinion, dude. What are you talking about?
Sorry, you dropped out for me. What was your immensely valuable contribution?
Observations don't render an opinion. What are you talking about?
The observations agree very closely or accord.
According to you, you're rendering your opinion.
No.
You're embedding it as if the observation is rendering your opinion.
No.
The accuracy of speech.
You can just look at the data and you can
compare the data. Lazy at best.
You can, sir. Your contribution is not progressing the conversation. You can look at the observations and you can compare them to the tidal model, and you can see that there is extremely.
Question about this.
You can see that there is extremely close agreement between the two. To deny that is to deny the observations.
Okay, do you acknowledge a magnetic change in the Earth during the tidal curve?
Over each other.
You can't tell someone because they deny your
hold on. I have
interpretation
something
of the
that's actually going to progress this.
That they reject the observation.
Stuff. I know, but listen, this might be important. I was just wondering. So you acknowledge that they do say that there's a magnetic field change in the Earth whenever there is these tidal curves, right?
I haven't read that paper. Is that in the chat?
Yeah, it's definitely. They actually say like the tidal curve causes the magnetic field change.
Yeah, so that can
due to motion induction.
So there are. So when tides occur, they cause flexure of the underlying crust, and they can cause motion of water within aquifers and within crystalline structures, and that has magnetic effects. But that is very different from saying that magnetism causes tides. Okay,
very, very well. So the types of gravimeters that they're using to detect a change during the tidal curves, which one of those are not sensitive whatsoever to either EMF or the magnetic field?
Largely all of them. All of them make efforts. Let's go with the superconducting gravimeter. So the superconducting gravimeter suspends a niobium ball in a magnetic field which is generated by some superconducting coils. Whenever there is an acceleration of the niobium sphere, it induces a current in the coils. that pushes it back to its point of origin. So it actually never moves, but there are changes in the currents passing through the coils, which can be used to detect the accelerations that are being applied to the niobium sphere. And these are recorded and interpreted they're just recorded. This particular apparatus is in a dewar because it requires supercooled. In order for the superconductors to work, the temperature has to be below 7 degrees Kelvin, or 7 Kelvin, sorry. And we use liquid helium refrigeration to get it down that low. This requires that it's in a gigantic metal container that is very effective. That is a very effective Faraday cage, and will filter out any rapid magnetic or electrical changes. So it's very well insulated from EMF contamination. And indeed, similar precautions are taken in other styles of gravimeter to minimize the possible intervention of electromagnetic effects. But again, even if they didn't, the fact that neutrons are not affected by electrical fields. Neutrons are not influenced by electrical fields, but they fall under gravity. Therefore, gravity cannot be electrical in nature.
Okay. So the operating principles of superconducting gravity meter. Here's a quote from its operation manual. Because the levitation is magnetic, changes in the Earth's magnetic field would seriously degrade its stability.
Yes, unless they were protected against.
Okay, so you're basically saying to detect gravity in this way, though, to detect the gravitational change, they're actually using magnetism because they're using a sphere levitated in a magnetic field.
Yes, they're using a sphere in a magnetic field.
Interesting.
Yep. That is a particular, and the thing is that we have gravimeters of a lot of different styles. So we've got the drop gravimeters like the FG5, where you drop a retroreflector whose position is recorded with a laser interferometer. You've got
drop gravimeters? Is there another name for that one?
Well, they're a style of absolute gravimeters.
Is it spring-based superconducting atom gravimeter MEMS? Which one?
It's none of those.
Okay, drop gravimeter?
Yes.
Is an absolute gravimeter?
Yes.
Oh, it is an absolute gravimeter. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, those can have slight to moderate effects from the EMF field.
And what about the cold atom gravimeters?
Huh?
What about the cold atom gravimeters?
Cold atom.
Yes.
Are you talking about the atom gravimeter? Would that be the same thing?
Well, they might be the same thing, but in the literature they're called cold atom gravimeters.
Apparently, they're very affected by magnetic and EMF fields. I have a source I can send you. But one more thing: can magnetic fields, like from the Earth, permeate Faraday cages? Because your response was, "Oh, well, they're shielded by a Faraday cage." Can magnetic fields permeate Faraday cages?
Yes, but only very slow perturbations can do that.
With the Earth's magnetic field?
The Earth's magnetic field. So the Earth's magnetic. In order to have any influence, it would have to be a changing magnetic field, and the faster the change in the magnetic field, the stronger the current induced in the Faraday cage, and the less it permeates.
But doesn't the magnetic field change a lot whenever there's a tidal wave?
Not a lot, no.
Doesn't it change some? Because I can give you papers where,
yes,
as you stated earlier, the motion of the water changes.
Okay, but again, that would be a relatively rapid change, and that is very easy to filter out with a Faraday cage.
Can you prove that they're filtering it with the? Because you just said that rapid magnetic changes will not be shielded by Faraday cages, which prevent the gravimeter.
That's the exact opposite of what I said.
Okay, try again.
Okay. Only very slow magnetic changes can permeate into a Faraday cage. Very
slow
rapid.
relative to what?
Relative to rapid.
Okay. Okay. You're gonna have to cite this. Sorry.
Well, I suggest you read up on how Faraday cages work.
Yeah, but yeah, static or low frequency magnetic fields can permeate them, especially from the Earth's magnetic field. It can definitely penetrate a Faraday cage. So
Okay,
that's
so let's step back. So let's consider Earth's static magnetic field. That is a constant, right?
I'm not sure because I just read a paper that the magnetic field can be changed by tidal waves.
Okay.
Yeah, Tony, I would love to debunk you on
but,
this.
But there is a mean magnetic field. Okay, there are perturbations to that mean. Okay, but there is a mean magnetic field, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so,
Okay.
but talking about an anomaly right now. But okay, go ahead.
So the question is, how rapid are the perturbations to that field? Now we can, if the Earth's magnetic field is static, then its effect on a gravimeter can be compensated for in the gravimeter design, or in the gravimeter, or in the instrument, or in the calibration stage, right?
You're gonna have to prove they're doing that.
You're going to have to prove that it can't be done.
What? You're claiming that it's being done, or you can't exclude it as a possible variable.
No, I'm saying that it is.
No, you, bro.
protective materials, high permeability alloy, new metals, commonly used to create shields that effectively reduce.
But it doesn't shield the magnetic field from the Earth, which is changing during the tidal waves.
It reduces it, or it eliminates it entirely.
Prove it.
Superconducting cylinders. For gravimeters that require even greater protection, a superconducting cylinder can be used as part of the shielding system. When superconducting materials are cooled to their transition temperature, persistent currents are induced in their surfaces, which prevent the external magnetic field from penetrating.
First of all, are you sure they're using superconductor gravimeters for the tidal waves in particular? Second of all, can you prove superconducting ones in particular? Because I can look into it in particular. Which gravimeters are they using for tidal waves?
That question makes no sense.
Which type of gravimeters are they using to detect? For what we talked about all day.
To construct time series of gravity. Superconducting gravimeters are one style? Yeah, sure.
What?
Superconducting gravimeters create a time series of observations.
Right. I thought I was making sure that's the only gravimeter that you're invoking for the gravity change from the tidal waves.
Please don't use the term tidal waves.
I'm sorry. What term would you like?
From tidal forcing.
Wait, what?
Tidal forcing.
Forcing?
Forcing.
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 Yes.
Forcing.
Okay, I didn't know we were talking about that today. It's a new word. Sorry. It doesn't matter either way, but whatever term you want me to use, fine. I'm saying, what gravimeters are they using to detect that?
It's gravimeter.
Whatever.
Okay. Don't just say whatever.
Okay, I'm sorry. Gravimeter. Sorry, I'll say gravimeter from now on.
There is a very.
Which type are they using? You're like not answering.
Superconducting. Let's stick with superconducting gravimeters. However, in practice, all gravimeters pick up the tidal component, and all gravimetric observations need to be. Yes.
All types of gravimeters pick up tidal. Just wondering.
Look, this is the thing, right?
All styles of gravimeter.
It doesn't matter. I'm just wondering, so I can move forward.
Can I say something real fast? I'm about to have a meeting, so I'm about to step away.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Witsit. Go ahead.
Okay, real fast. So like, this is what always happens, right? people claim to falsify the idea that gravity is electrical in nature by boxing it into their understanding of it, right? It's like a fundamental straw man. And then they always say stuff like neutrons go down or whatever. It's like, first of all, neutrons are not truly neutral, they're net neutral. Okay, within your own paradigm, which mind you, I reject, okay, outright. But within your own paradigm, this is true, right? They claim that there's an up quark and a down quark, and that they have a fractional electrical charge,
Okay,
elementary
allow me to
charge.
ask a question.
Dude, I only have a couple minutes, dude.
Let him
Stop.
finish.
So I have a question directly related
No,
to
let
that.
him finish.
Has it ever been observed that a neutron has been deflected by an electric field?
Can I finish?
Before we go on to that, I do want to say Faraday cages cannot block stable or slowly varying magnetic fields, such as the Earth's magnetic field in a tidal wave or whatever, tidal whatever. So I'm just saying these can be influenced by that. That can be affected with the affected gravimeters. So then you're like doing like circular reasoning. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So Tony,
Go ahead,
stop,
Witsit.
dude.
We can talk PhD Tony after he leaves.
Yeah, I only got like 5 minutes. So like maybe 10. So like this is the thing, right? If you really look into even the Faraday cages, it's well known like the best that we can create still does not eliminate electric and magnetic variables. This is well known, especially if you're trying to make highly precise measurements. It's like the biggest headache in the world. They did this when they tried to make the most precise Cavendish replication ever. This was an Ivy League school. I think it was maybe Harvard, but I don't remember. And they point this out explicitly. But all that aside, right? This is a fundamental misunderstanding of how much of a shift you have to make to truly interpret even like say like what I kind of think is going on, because it's more like, okay, you interpret electrical to mean like purely electrostatic in the term of attraction or repulsion and this like atomic interpretation. That isn't how I understand it though, right? And again, the whole idea that neutrons are neutral is just like a very poorly constructed suggestion. There's a difference in net neutral. They're fundamentally intrinsically neutral. And then you kind of say, oh, well, has it ever been deflected? Well, we have to understand what's even going on, right? If there's some type of downward bias, right, we're trying to figure out what the cause of that is, right? So, okay, I'm trying to think of the best way to say this without it turning into a huge conversation, but it's like when we say mass, charge, energy density, whatever, it's like manifestations of, for you to understand in your paradigm, electromagnetic like field configurations, right? So that like gravity
magnetic
could be
moment. They have them.
Like macroscopic. Let me think of the word to say this for you because you're gonna pick it all apart. Like it's like a gradient effect of the underlying field distributions. Okay, so in a way, relativity was heading in the right direction, only in very specific ways, such as it's an emergent property. What's being called gravity is an emergent property. So it's an emergent effect of polarization or like dielectric tension within the background medium, okay? Like the substrates or quote unquote vacuum substrate. So people that claim to be debunking this don't understand it, and saying that like, oh, neutrons still go down just show that they don't understand it. And I'm
Let
not
me read
claiming
it
that
from
it's a super
Oxford.
simple thing, but it's like you understand that what you're trying to
Yes.
do is conflate the frameworks, and they claim to refute my position by strawmanning it with the presuppositions baked into your framework.
Tony, you can go on for 10 minutes. Let me just read this one sentence. Neutrons can be affected by the magnetic field despite having no electric charge. Neutrons possess an intrinsic magnetic dipole moment due to their spin and internal structure, which allows them to interact with external magnetic fields. And Faraday cages can't block it. So how can we prove that this gravimeter being affected by a tidal, whatever, tidal force or whatever you want to call it, is not from magnetic fields, which we know are changed during the tidal waves or whatever you want to call it.
Allow me to demonstrate. Allow me to demonstrate. We take a ball and we drop it and measure its fall. Then we do the same experiment in the most intense. We take a let's say a wooden ball and we drop it. Then we do the same experiment in the most intense magnetic field we can possibly generate. and we see that it has negligible effect on the rate at which the ball drops. We had therefore disproved the claim that magnetic effects are the dominant driver of what's making the ball fall.
Deflection.
Because if that were the case, then introducing a whacking great magnetic field would have vastly changed, and the orientation of the magnetic field would have vastly changed the fall characteristics of the ball, and that didn't happen. So
is that how gravimeters work? You drop a ball? No.
But that isn't the question. The question was,
you're using gravimeters to prove your case.
No, it isn't. You are.
And we're not talking about gravimeters anymore. Is that the case? We're moving on.
We are asking. You asked the question: how can we know that gravitational effects are not magnetic in origin? That was the question. That was the question you asked, and you can deny it now, but you are simply wrong.
Your gravimeters are affected by magnetic fields.
How many times do you have to be told that it is gravimeter?
I don't care how you pronounce it.
Then you clearly don't care enough about being accurate in the topic to be engaging in this in good faith.
Okay, you can't refute my claim.
Kind of like not caring about Elias effect and how to pronounce that. You didn't give a shit about that, did you?
Refute my claim.
I said that I don't know how to pronounce that. Right? I said I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm very
saying whatever after I say
what you said was the correct pronunciation. But regardless, Taylor, the question at hand is whether or not the downward acceleration is caused by magnetic fields. We don't need a gravimeter to demonstrate that. We can do that with brute laboratory experiments involving very large
gravimeters and tidal waves. Gravimeters and tidal waves.
It doesn't matter, given that those magnetic fields are much smaller than the magnetic fields that we can artificially induce in a laboratory. But those large magnetic fields don't affect the downward acceleration of wooden objects.
This is a deflection.
We can. No, it isn't.
We're talking about the tidal waves from
demonstration. It is a demonstration that magnetic effects are not the dominant cause. Magnetic effects can cause errors in measurement, but they are not the dominant cause of the effect.
But you're using gravimeters to prove your gravity.
No, we're not. We're using gravimeters to measure gravity.
This morning,
That's a very different
can
thing.
those be affected by EMF? Yes. Can tidal waves change the EMF? Yes. How do we know it's not just that? Just saying.
Because we can very much change the EMF applied to a falling object, and it doesn't change the fall characteristics.
That has nothing to do with the tidal wave. Witsit, did you want to say something before you have to
leave? Tidal waves, you've returned to terminology that is vastly inaccurate. Tidal waves,
whatever you want to call it, bro.
Okay.
Why are you mad, bro?
How about you use the terminology that is used in the literature?
Can we put a pause? Just pause on this for a second. Okay, because I just want the room to hear this. Is people always think this neutron thing is such a huge gotcha, which first of all, I think it's hilarious. That's all they can even come up with is just the one thing, right? But anyway, and then neutrons and neutrinos, where they the truth is admitted, they're like, neutrinos are super perplexing and confounding. We don't really understand it. Sometimes it looks like they're going faster than the speed of light and they go through everything, but we'll pop on Discord and pretend we fully understand it to somehow prove gravity or whatever. It's just so goofy. But anyway, important parts. Neutrons are actually not like completely void of electrical characteristics, right? Being net neutral doesn't mean they're literally void of charge. So they are not neutral, they're just net neutral. Like if you break it down to the smaller components, again, which I reject the subatomic models, but it doesn't matter. The phenomena is still a real thing. This is very important. And the way that people can see it, it doesn't matter because if it's net neutral, the point is like it's not interacting with these electrical components, or it's still going down even though there is no electrical component. That's like what Tony's saying, which debunks that gravity could be electrical. That isn't actually true, right? Because if you understand it as like a gradient within dielectric polarization, so what's being called gravity is actually just a polarization gradient. So thus it's like, in your conception, pulling all things down, but it's not actually pulling anything, right? But concentrations of energy go toward the lower potential. So like every particle, charged or neutral or whatever, is made up of some electromagnetic field energy. So they all experience the same downward acceleration. They're going to the lower potential. So it's basically like a giant background ocean, right? And there's polarization within this. And when there isn't like a homogeneous distribution of the energy, we have effects, emergent properties within that people are calling gravity. So if you just actually envision like a gigantic ocean and throwing a rock in it, and then we look over here, it starts rippling, and then we look over here and we see a boat, and the boat's moving a certain way, that the way the boat's moving is specifically dependent on how those ripples or waves are moving, right? So it's like the disturbance, or what you typically would call mass or whatever, is affecting it because it's within the same field, right? There's a disturbance within the field. It's going to disturb how or dictate how things move. But you seem to believe that there's some magical property connecting the two, where that space and time are what the background is, and the background's nothing other than that. It's not actual, it's not substantive or whatever. So this is what's so ironic about it, is that relativity has a framework that is very similar in certain ways. It just completely just strips away any logic or feasibility when it claims that it's not a medium. It just is a medium, but not one. So I know that's a lot, and this is why, like, I was hesitant to even say this right before I have to leave. But I just want you to understand that this whole thing that like neutrons go down, therefore it disproves that gravity's electric, isn't correct. It's a misunderstanding of. I can only speak for myself, but my position is like basically what's being called gravity is there are many different ways I can phrase it, right? It's an emergent property based on the vibratory nature of the background, based on disturbances. Okay. Everything is just seeking equilibrium, including the actual background. So this creates a universal downward bias. That's what it does.
What is the observational validation of your position?
All of the evidence that you invoke.
How would we distinguish between the two?
Gravimeter.
Gravimeters are affected by magnetic fields.
Yes, except that we have demonstrated, Taylor, magnetic fields introduce noise. They introduce errors into gravimeters.
But the Faraday cage is
that is not the same thing.
The magnetic field,
that is not the same thing as them introducing being responsible for the entirety of the signal.
We have no control group to distinguish.
You just won't shut up long enough for you to be taught.
But you just have
That is the reason that you are wasting your life defending these completely unscientific positions, is that you just won't shut up long enough to and listen actively enough in order to internalize information. And I've actually got to go. But Taylor,
disprove me if I'm not internalizing. Everything I've stated is peer reviewed.
Pleasantries are good. You have blinded yourself to actually being instructed on anything, and I pity your supervisor.
What did I say that was wrong? Everything I said can be sourced and it's peer reviewed. That's what I use as evidence.
What the
heck? Just race.
Just to repeat for the room for actual productive ideas for people to kind of chew on. And right, so under the like electrical paradigm, right, we have the tendency of electromagnetic energy or field energy densities to move towards a region of lower potential. Everything is comprised of that. Thus, all things do that. They migrate to a region of lower potential in this universal medium, in this ocean, this background ocean. So neutrons and atoms and light, charged particles, you name it, they all do this because they are like internally localized oscillations of the same universal background of that same field. everything is going to, in really simple terms, everything seeks equilibrium based on pressure mediation. And because of the energy densities, they're all going to have a slight bias to go to the lower potential, thus they slightly are affected downward. This explains everything. And in fact, when you say, like, what's the evidence for it? It's like, oh, there's way more evidence that this is correct. And this actually unifies all scales from quantum all the way up to the cosmological scale. This is actually viable on 1,000 times more viable. And now I can look out and I can see a galaxy, and I can see that according to gravity, it's all based on mass. It's all mass proportionate to mass. And I see that doesn't work at all. There's only 1% of the mass needed in the coma cluster for the galaxy not to escape. How did that work? Oh, we just invoke religious principles like magical, mystical, dark matter and never can define it or find it or prove it or anything. Or we can just say, wait, gravity, quote unquote, what's being called and mislabeled gravity is actually not based on mass alone. It isn't proportionate to mass. And so I'll just finish it with the same analogy I always say. If I have like a little piece of metal that I can turn into a magnet, it's a certain size, right? According to gravity, no matter how many of those you have, if they're all the same size, they all have the same amount of gravity because gravity is limited to proportionate mass. But if it's actually, say, like the galaxies are magnetic in nature, then that's not the case. One magnet, two magnets that are the same size can have huge differences in strengths, magnetic field strength, right? One can be way stronger than the other, which would explain why you can't just look out at stuff and be like, well, how much matter is there? Because now we know how much gravity should be there. And no, it's not working. Oh no, what are we going to do? If, plug it in with dark matter and magic. It's like, no, that just had a stronger magnetic field, bro. So it's like, this is way more viable. It's actually the only thing that possibly makes sense. Whatever's causing that motion in the sky is not limited to proportionate mass. It can't be. Provably isn't. Doesn't work. So it's
have you written that in a paper?
Take your ball and go home, my guy. Take your ball and go home, my guy.
Have you written that in a paper and sent off a peer review with it? I mean, that's a great hypothesis.
Is it a concession that you're incapable of engaging with it intellectually, so you just try to kick the can down the road to some proverbial idea of someone else?
Theory, if you haven't disproven it, if you haven't disproven it, it's still on the table.
He's got to prove it, actually. And if you have, I mean, if this was a theory, you could get a Nobel Prize. And, Nobel Prize is like $1 million.
Your hypothesis.
Nobel Prize is like $1 million, Witsit. I know you got $1 million right now.
I can easily verify that
do
the effective objects going down are okay. Listen to me, my guy. So the way that science actually works is that you have an effect, and then you presume a cause, you propose it with a cause and effect relationship test called a hypothesis, then you manipulate the independent variable to see if it does that. Okay, cool. So a little piece of styrofoam falls down when I drop it. What am I going to do? Manipulate the electrical field, and when I do that, I can actually cause the levitator go up. So direct cause and effect relationship established. Okay, cool.
Nope,
let's leave that on the table for a second. We'll leave that on the table for a second. Now I want you to manipulate the bending and warping of space-time, and I want you to make an object levitate. Go.
Well, I don't need to do that. All I need to do is drop 3 objects, one positively charged, one negatively charged, and one neutral, and see if there's a difference in the rate of fall. There is no difference in the rate of fall. Therefore, your hypothesis is incorrect.
See if it still works.
Don't need to remove the gravity.
Right. That's what we're
showing. That's what we're showing what gravity is. That's what we're showing what gravity is. That's what we are showing what gravity is. We are showing that gravity. Okay, we are showing that gravity is not electric in nature because the positively charged item, the negatively charged item, and the neutrally charged item all fall at the same rate.
Listen.
Neutrally charged item, no charge.
Please listen. You have to determine cause and effect. That's going to be the independent variable. You're going to introduce it. You're going to remove it for the control group. This means that you introduce gravity for one group. You remove gravity for the control group. You see if they have the same effect, and then you say, if we want to, can you stop interrupting me?
You don't remove the thing.
Well, maybe
okay, 2 people. Thank you. Okay. What you do to establish cause and effect in science, it's called the independent dependent variable. If you want to see if gravity causes things to fall, that's going to be your independent variable. You're going to manipulate. You're going to introduce gravity. You're going to remove gravity. Then what you're going to do is compare the rate of fall. If you're saying gravity causes fall, remove, add, compare the control group with the experimental group and see if you get a p-value that is significant. Preferably under 0.05. So that is how you determine if gravity causes things to fall. Have you done it? That's the only way to determine cause and effect. If you say gravity causes fall, you have to do that experiment.
Incorrect in the same because
Witsit, what other type of experiment would you do in science?
Excuse me, I was talking. You can interrupt me, but I can't interrupt you apparently. The Witsit gravity hypothesis that gravity is electrical in nature. Therefore, I've taken a positively charged item, a negatively charged item, and a item with no charge, neutrally charged Witsit, and dropped
No,
them at the
atoms
same
have
time.
charge.
Excuse me. No, atoms do not have charge. Not this is positive. This is not internal
Really?
charge. This is the This is the charge on the entire item. If you don't
have
understand the
internal charge
difference
then.
between, if you don't understand
Protons,
the difference
neutrons,
between that,
electrons, that has charge.
excuse me, I was talking. How come you can overspeak me, but when I do it to you, I get muted? I mean, the double standard in this room is fucking
I mean, you
amazing.
just
at
said
times.
something incorrect. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know. Well, see, that's the thing, though.
All
You
right,
say
go,
tons of
go,
shit
go.
incorrect, but yet when
Just
you
go ahead,
interrupt
bro.
me, I get muted. But
Y'all can mute me
interrupt
if
you,
I
you
want.
get I get
keep
muted.
going on
No, I'm
about
tired
it
of the double
instead of the
standard.
actual point. Chill.
I'm
Give it
tired
a
of the
Just told
fucking
you
fucking
to
double
rest.
mute me if
standard.
I interrupt you. Go ahead.
I'm tired of the double
All right, go
standard.
ahead,
Are
go
you gonna let me
I
talk now?
just
Here we
said
go.
to mute
So
me if I
excuse me.
interrupt you. Go
Here we
ahead.
are. She's interrupting me again, and I'm going to get muted here because that's what happens. Normally, what happens?
The child.
Normally, what happens here is the Flatties interrupt me. Normally, what happens is the Flatties interrupt me, and then I get muted or banned.
Can't
For
record
go ahead.
So anyway, the Witsit gravity hypothesis is that it's electrically charged. It's because of electrics, magnetics. So we're going to take a positive charged item, a negatively charged item, and a neutrally charged item, and we're going to drop them at the same time. And therefore, we'll show that it is not electromagnetic in nature.
Okay, so like what's super weird is that you guys act like you're saying a new point, but you just say the same point over and over. So,
Well,
okay,
because no,
dude, stop. Dude, here's the deal, man. I have to go. I'm just gonna say it again, right? First of all, you're conflating no charge with a net neutral. Those are not the same thing. Just because something's net neutral means it doesn't have any internal electrical properties. Everything that exists does, fundamentally, even with your own framework. I explained that the fact that there's a downward bias, right, is easily explained based on moving towards a lower potential. It's just pressure mediation. Okay, that's all it is. And then, more importantly, this claim that the manipulation of the charge of an object has no effect on the rate of fall. They all fall down. That's patently false. I myself have done it. You can change the rate at which something falls. You can even change the weight registered by manipulating the ambient electrical field. You can absolutely make objects fall at different rates. This is obvious if you're able to make it levitate or go up. If you can reverse direction, then obviously you are able to manipulate it somewhere in the middle of that and make it fall slower. This claim that it has no effect and everything all falls at the same rate all the time, that isn't true. The issue is that it's just that the amount of like the manipulation of the ambient electrical field is so strong that you have to do this on a very small scale, and that the actual net change is very, very small, which is to be expected. Okay, so that's a fact. What you said is provably false. Provably false.
Incorrect. Nothing you say. I mean, you've got anti-gravity Witsit. If you can manipulate gravity in your electromagnetic thing, according to you, you can negate gravity. Why don't you patent this thing? You'd be like the richest fuck in the world here. Everybody's looking for anti-gravity. And this whole thing about you guys thinking that everything's
you got no
charged.
rebuttal.
I do have a rebuttal. Everything you said is false. You have no
Your
proof for
rebuttal is
anything you said.
and make
My
anti-gravity
rebuttal,
devices.
again, here I am speaking, and you have to interrupt me, but that's okay.
That's what
Again,
you just said to
your
him.
internal charges have nothing to. Your go ahead. I mean, come on, guys. What's the double standard in this thing? It's fucking amazing.
Rebut the point instead of just personally
I am.
attacking
I'm sorry again, but I'm doing the same thing to you. The positively charged item has a total net charge on it, positive, a total net negative charge. This is what electromagnetics see. They don't see the internal charges of stuff. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is what electromagnetics see. That's your argument.
Yep.
Okay, look, I actually am going to now walk in here. Okay, electromagnetics don't see things. Okay,
again, feel whatever you want to say. Whatever.
Notice how fast they moved on from tidal waves and the gravity after we disproved them, that gravimeters are affected by magnetic fields and how magnetic fields are influenced by the tides. So this is so funny how fast everyone moved on from that, even though Witsit was not inherently wrong. You couldn't differentiate between the two actually. So anyway, moving on.
Okay, well, I'm walking in here, dude. I was trying to lay out the general idea for people that actually want to think about it. I'm not even claiming that I'm obviously I'm right or have it all figured out, but I am pointing out that this whole claim that neutrons fall down, therefore, is wrong. It's incorrect. So, people should, try to come up with some other way. And then the second point again, actually objects, you can manipulate how fast they fall directly based on the ambient electrical fields. I've done it myself, easily provable, and no amount of nut-ons are going to change that. But okay, I got to step away. I'll be back on here a little later.
Have a good one.
Oh, I want to
run away, bye, run away.
I want to
told us he had to leave like 4